I'm Chuck Todd. Up next on Hotline TV, we ask if Willard Mitt Romney can fight a two-front war to win the Republican nomination.
And I'm John Mercurio. With that, plus I ask Chuck whatever happened to the Salt Lake Olympic funds he embezzled.
As in my money?
That is in fact correct.
That and more next on Hotline TV.
Many of the materials we rely on every day come from the ground, and modern mining technology brings them to us. You can learn more about America's natural resources at nma.org, the National Mining Association.
From the Watergate Building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now here are Hotline editors Chuck Todd and John Mercurio.
It's Hotline TV, and I'm Chuck Todd.
And I am John Mercurio. Former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney has been a liberal Republican back in the day, but has recast himself as a more conservative mold. So the question is Mitt Romney now vulnerable to being squeezed by both factions of the Republican Party, by Giuliani on the left and by the Huckabee, etc., the other side on the right?
Sort of like a coffee talk here on discuss. I think it was stunning this week to see if there was a pattern with Mike Huckabee and Sam Brownback and all this stuff, and even with John McCain, there's one person they all seem to agree on attacking, and that's Mitt Romney.
Right.
They're either hitting him for being a flip-flopper or hitting him for being a come-to-me, Johnny-come-lately on social conservatism. I mean, he is getting it on all sides, and I'm starting to question whether he can hold up. I don't think anybody can hold up when you're getting all this fire, and you're not even the front runner yet. Right. You're still interesting second-tier guy that everybody spots as a potential problem.
Sure.
Kill him now while he's small.
And that's what I think it is, too. I think you're right. But I do think that there's this perception that in the Republican field, he's the one most likely to rise. He's the one most likely to pose the challenge to McCain. He's the one with the money right now and sort of the organization.
Well, he's standing in the way of a Huckabee and Brownback, and even
Brownback.
Potentially of Rudy, though.
But it really makes you scratch your head as to why the Romney people didn't think this was going to be a factor. Why they, or at least the idea that they don't seem prepared to respond to the flip-flopper charge. It's a natural thing for people to be asking, considering his race for Senate in 1994.
I'm guessing the thing that they didn't anticipate, and I don't know. I mean, from my understanding, there was some debate inside Romney world of whether to introduce him as a conservative or introduce him just as a pragmatic governor who still had a conservative core, but was a pragmatist in as far as legislating in Massachusetts. And that they went with the conservative thing. I think what they didn't anticipate, they knew they'd get hit from McCain and that McCain would feed this stuff. I think what they didn't anticipate is that Brownback and Huckabee would have no problem going after him by name.
Yeah.
And no problem, and it's turned this into sort of a sideshow that you got to think John Weaver and Mark Salter are just laughing their butts off.
Well,
the
other person who I think is watching this closely is Rudy Giuliani, because look, I mean, we've been talking. Giuliani is America's mayor. He has been the most beloved Republican across America for the past 6 years, and that's because he hasn't actually run in an elected in a political campaign. The day that he enters the presidential primary, if he in fact does do that, look, I think you're going to see he gets the same treatment that Romney's been getting.
But
not that he's a flip-flopper, but because his liberal positions on a lot of these social issues
but it depends on how he rolls
be targeted.
On how he rolls himself out. He is not. I have not detected any try to change in position. He just doesn't talk about it.
Right, and he doesn't want to talk about it.
Well, what's
but Brownback
interesting
wants to talk
is
about it.
if you believe the folks that show up to these Giuliani rallies, they sit there and say, "Well, he's a strong guy and he's a leader and this or that." You almost think that they respect Rudy more for saying, "We know you disagree with us on some key issues, but thank you for not poking us in the eye with it." And in some way, Romney pokes them in the eye by trying to suck up to him. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm just thinking out loud here.
And I think there are some parallels actually between Giuliani and Obama in that way, that they're both, people are looking to them as sort of outside the mold, outside the box politicians who talk, whose supporters come to them not necessarily because they agree with them on specific issues, but because they think they could create a new way in politics.
It's interesting. I've been a skeptic on Rudy for a long time, but watching Romney sort of, and maybe it's too soon to say that he's crumbling. He's not crumbling. I mean, the guy's going to have an infrastructure that's as good as anybody.
Sure.
But to see the attacks he's taking does make me think that, if Rudy rolls this thing out correctly, he might be able to be a stronger candidate sort of day-to-day candidate, then maybe I'd give him credit for. I
Although,
don't know.
do the conservatives sort of eat each other up by, does Brownback and Huckabee beat up Romney so much that the conservative wing of the party just gets so disenchanted with all of their candidates because Brownback and Giuliani aren't viable, and they've beaten up on Romney so much that McCain just sort of walks through as the establishment candidate.
And that's how Bob Dole became the nominee in
That's
96.
exactly-
I feel like I've
that's
seen this
exactly right.
movie before
That's exactly
where
right.
we've seen, and I remember one time we thought Pete Wilson was the guy that, boy, Clinton was the most afraid of.
Right.
And what happened? Lamar Alexander specifically, but Dole and Gingrich and Dole and Phil Gramm, every of them, they all killed him. They all decided, let's kill that Pete Wilson.
Right.
And they all got together. It almost feels like you're seeing the same thing on Willard, Mitt Romney, that they all are sitting there going, that guy's dangerous. Let's kill him. I mean, it is sort of kill the man with the potential.
Right.
Instead of kill the man with the ball. I don't know.
And that'll do it for today's Hotline TV. Join us tomorrow when I ask Willard Chuck Todd how he likes to be triangulated. Until then, I'm Willard John Mercurio.
Actually, I wish my name were Tag. That's actually what, Willard Mitt Romney's son is. Tag with 2 G's. And I'm Chuck Todd with 2 D's. We'll see you tomorrow on The Big Show.